Exit polls pointing to a win for South Korea's opposition candidate Lee Jae-myung, a record turnout for elections 6 months to the day after former leader Yoon Suk-yeol's ill-fated bid for martial law. And for more on these elections in South Korea, we're joined by Dr. Soo Kim. She's a former CIA career analyst and geopolitical risk consultant, and she joins us live from Seoul. Dr. Kim, if these figures can be, they are around 50% or 52% from this joint exit poll, and our correspondent earlier saying these polls are generally regarded as reliable in terms of their what they predict in terms for the results. 52%, that's a majority. What were people voting for?
So this is a snap election, as you remember, and the people had essentially 2 months to decide on a candidate, to decide on a president, actually. So the typical issues that we would be seeing taking front and center in an election were not as important as understanding what it means to elect either Lee or Kim to the presidency. Who is going to represent democracy? Who is going to be the bastion of South Korean democracy? That was at the heart of the election this time. So it's less about the policy positions, it's less about that versus what the candidate represents and actually can the candidate deliver on their promises. I think that's going to be the next question.
All right. It's hard to define or to even agree on what democracy necessarily means. But Mr. E, assuming he does win, will have to deliver as a representative of democracy. Can he?
That's a really interesting question, because I think depending on who you voted for, your definition of democracy is also going to look different. So for the person who voted for Kim Moon-soo, they're going to want a democracy that we typically think of as the principle, the standard bearer of South Korean conservatism. On the flip side, whoever voted for Lee is going to look for something that's a little bit more pragmatic, not necessarily fixed to principles, but on a case-by-case, more of an adaptable kind of approach. The question that we have for Lee now is, he has made some promises. He's also switched policy positions on very important foreign policy issues. Is that going to carry through his presidency, or was that something that he just promised as a campaign ploy? That remains to be seen, and of course, we're not going to see these changes happen overnight. It's going to take a while for him to put his policy positions into place to actually carry that forward.
I think you're possibly referring to his the accusation that he has tacked rather to the center since at least April of this year, when he made his intentions very clear he was going to be running for president. He has called himself a centrist conservative in the context of South Korean politics and the larger geopolitical context. What is a centrist conservative?
I think Lee is probably in the best position to answer that, because we know that he was never a conservative. And then to put the word centrist on top of that, what does that actually mean? He's also said that he's a pragmatist. He's also said that his party is also center right, I think. And that really, it doesn't really embody the ethos of the Democratic Party or the ethos of Lee Jae-myung, as we know. So again, it's questionable because it doesn't really represent the Lee that we know. And given the 60-day time window for the campaigning and the switch that happened within that time frame, we have to wonder if this, really was something that was just it was genuine and sincere on his part, or was it something that he was doing in an effort to garner more interest and votes from the moderate and the swing voters?
All right, we will be seeing how both his domestic and foreign policy will be taking shape, and it's very hard to judge that at this point. But what South Korea arguably might need is genuine change. And he has proposed this along with the PPP candidate, that's Mr. Kim Moon-soo, curbing presidential powers. And Mr. E, more than most leaders, certainly more than Mr. Kim, has the leverage, has the legislative majority to do this. And he has, at this point, the popular mandate. Can he execute on the constitutional amendments that will be needed to curb presidential power in South Korea?
I think the question is less about can he do it versus will he do it. We understand that the DP has the majority in the National Assembly. It's got basically all the levers of control except for the judiciary. So that's a lot of power, not just for the party, but for Lee Jae-myung himself. So is he going to be using that power to further the political freedoms and the democratic expressions of the people? Or will he use that for his own personal gain, which, as we know, he's also facing 4 or 5 legal charges that are pending. Whether or not he's going to face consequences, investigations, prosecutions during his presidency remains to be seen. Most likely not. And again, if he's truly intent on reducing the presidential powers, we would see a more equitable and I think a more there would be more fidelity, I think, in the way that he goes about rolling out these reforms, both as president, but also as a citizen of South Korea.
Oh, thanks for that. Former CIA career analyst and geopolitical risk consultant Dr. Soo Kim there, looking at what Mr. Lee Jae-myung may do if he does, in fact, win that presidency in South Korea. Dr. Soo Kim joining us live from Seoul.